It is a story about Ousmane Sembene, the first West African to make a feature film in Africa. So he is really the one who invented an African cinema. But over and above Ousmane Sembene's story, the film is about the power of storytelling. Some say we are made of flesh and blood. I believe we are made of stories. But when you will look at it from the perspective of Sembene, he single-handedly invented African cinema and put Africa on the map of world cinema. In the good tradition of independent cinema, he really made cinema for humanistic reasons to participate in positive change in a continent in which actually writing reaches very few people in light of the rampant illiteracy in both African languages and Western languages. He found a way to make a cinema in African languages, not only reconciling the African artists with the African public, but also allowing the African people to see themselves through an unfiltered mirror in their own languages. That's basically what the film is about. He's a crusader with a camera, or freedom fighter who used a camera as his weapon. For me, the day I read Sembene's first story, I thought it was an aha moment. Because through the French narratives, colonial narrative, we were made to believe that we did not have culture. We did not have a collective memory. That the only history worth talking about in Africa was the history of the white man of Africa, I mean, of the colonizer in Africa. Here is Sembene, a writer, who's telling me about black folks who mounted a strike, who challenged French establishment. In other words, makers of history. I strongly believe that there cannot be identity without memory. There's no memory without story. So by killing our stories in our original languages and imposing French stories and French history in the French language, it was a kind of cultural and psychological genocide. Genocide in the sense that what it creates in you, when you are, imagine waking up every morning, for instance, as a black person as an African, and reading through stories, something like the only history in Africa is history of the white man in Africa. The history of Africa was a perpetual slumber until the French came and woke you up. The color of your skin is a sign of, I don't know, a curse or whatever it is. You internalize. That's what's called an inferiority complex. So I was born in 1954 when Senegal was still under French colonial power, at least formally. Informally, it still is. Nothing has changed, but now we have a flag and we have a national anthem. For me, until age 16, all my dream, all my aim, all my yearning was to become a black Frenchman. Because I was made to believe nothing in my culture was worth treasuring. I wanted to become French because I self-hated. But then reading Sembene, that's why I was talking about the redemptive power of storytelling. Sembene reconciled me with myself, restored in me a certain level of pride. His stories never made me, hinted at me that I was better than anybody else, but rather that I was like everybody else, that there was a reason to be proud in being what you are. Through Sembene, to show what I conceive as the role of the artist should always be in their society. The artist who is an embodiment of the dreams, hopes, and nightmares of his own people. I will not let his story be forgotten.